3:45 a.m., the 29th of July, 2025, South China Sea, a beam of the Spratly Islands. Rain lashes the deck of the USS Howard, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer cutting through black, heavy seas. On the bridge, Captain Sarah Ellis studies the humming radar picture, its green sweep breathing across glass. Contacts multiply. One track surges toward them at 30 knots, a Chinese Type 052D, Liu Yang. The radio snaps to life. U.S. warship, you are in Chinese territory. Alter course immediately or face consequences. Ellis answers flat even. We are operating in international waters. We will maintain lawful passage. No one breathes for a beat. Then the Liu Yang grows in the window's gray steel on darker night, closing with predatory intent. Spray boils off its bow. Alarms ring. Collision warning. All hands brace. The conning officer shouts, impact. Steel buckles like crushed armor. The Chinese bow rakes along Howard's port side, torn plating shrieking. Sparks spatter across the forecastle as the American destroyer lurches 10 degrees to port. Bulkhead sensors glow red. Flooding! Main engine room. Damage control teams to frames 1, 8 to 3, 2. Pumps kick on with a thunderous whine, fighting 5,000 gallons a minute, while sailors heave portable patches and rig shoring in knee-deep water. Overhead, rotors beat the storm. A Z-10 helicopter hovers off the beam, searchlight slashing through rain, daring someone to flinch. On the bridge, Ellis grips the rail. Seal the hatch. Get me a stability report. Rudder amidships hold her steady. The risk is larger than a ship. In the cells below, 96 missiles sleep breach measured in hundreds of miles. Implications measured in headlines and treaties? A wrong move could turn a ramming into a regional war before dawn. For a long half-minute, nothing moves but weather and adrenaline. Then the list eases a fraction as the pumps gain. We've slowed the intake, someone yells. The crew rides the quiver of hope, but the Liu Yang is circling, bow-dented, intent unbroken. Another pass would finish what the first began. Lightning forks over black water. In that stark white flash, two warships face each other like loaded arguments. Will Howard survive the next minute, and will the world survive the answer? The Howard shudders as steel remembers the ramming. Below decks, water hisses through torn seams, churning into white foam around sailors in foul weather gear. Pumps howl at full draw, hoses leap like veins across the passageways. And damage control teams shoulder steel patches and timber shoring, racing frame to frame to keep the sea outside where it belongs. The ship is bleeding, but not beaten. Bulkhead sealed, flooding slowed. A petty officer reports, voice raw over the net. A heartbeat later, a new alarm keens pressure rising in a secondary space. Crew push on in ankle-deep water, hands slick with salt and grease. 5,000 gallons a minute is a number, but here it is, weight, sound, and the cold bite in their boots. Every minute they buy is another chance the Howard stays afloat. Topside, a Z-Watton helicopter hangs off the beam like an accusation, its spotlight washing the bridge in hard white glare. The Chinese destroyer circles with its bow visibly dented, wake curling tight and deliberate. Over the radio, alter course or be sunk. On the bridge, Captain Ellis answers without heat. We are exercising lawful navigation. Maintain course. Her next order is quiet and lethal in its restraint. Weapons tight. We do not fire unless fired upon. Discipline is its own weapon. Aegis tracks through rain clutter, building a picture from noise. Fire parties read list and trim. Engineers nurse the power plant like a patient on the edge. Below the deck plates, 96 silent cells remind everyone that miscalculation is an accelerant. One panicked shot would turn glare into fire. The stakes rise beyond steel. Lose a billion-dollar ship here. And allies in Manila, Tokyo, and Canberra doubt American promises. Markets shiver. Sea lanes narrow under new maps. Hold the line, and the message is different. Deterrence is not volume, it is will, coordination, and the calm to choose, the last resort last. In this storm, two doctrines test each other at knife-range precision and patience against momentum and menace. Which decides the night? If you back discipline and tech, press 1. If you think raw aggression wins, press 9 and subscribe to stand watch with us on the next report. The Howard steadies against the waves, her pumps gaining the upper hand. But the duel is no longer about compartments or leaks. It is about the silent arsenals locked within steel. The Arleigh Burke-class destroyer is a warship built as both shield and sword. At 9,200 tons, the Howard carries the Aegis Combat System, a nervous system of sensors capable of tracking 100 airborne or surface threats out to 300 miles. 96 vertical launch cells line her spine, each a doorway for weapons ranging from Tomahawk cruise missiles that strike with surgical precision 1,000 miles away to SM-6 interceptors that hunt incoming missiles at Mach 3.5. Above her decks, a Seahawk helicopter extends reach below the sea, dropping sonar buoys and slinging Hellfires into shadows where submarines stalk. This ship, price tag $1.8 billion, is a statement. Fewer hulls, but each bristling with brains and bite. The Chinese Liu Yang, by contrast, weighs in lighter at 7,000 tons, but she is not timid. 64 launch cells house YJ-18 anti-ship missiles, sleek predators that cruise low and burst to Mach 3-inch their final sprint. Her HHQ-9 interceptors reach for the sky at Mach 4, and Z-10 helicopters scan with dipping sonar, hunting beneath the waves. At $800 million, she is half the cost of her rival, built for replication. China fields more than 350 warships. What they lack in electronics, they offset in numbers. Two doctrines stare across the rain-swept sea. The American model favors technology systems that see farther, shoot sharper, and share data seamlessly with allies from Japan to the Philippines. The Chinese model favors presence hulls on every horizon, drone swarms filling radar scopes, artificial islands anchoring claims with concrete and missile towers. Analysts call it quality versus quantity, but for sailors on deck, it is survival versus overwhelm. A single Tomahawk carries more computing power than an entire 1,982nd destroyer. Yet, a single swarm of cheap drones can confuse a billion-dollar radar. Which philosophy bends, and which breaks when steel collides in the storm? The Howard's crew bet on discipline and edge. The Liu Yang's captain bets on momentum and mass. Only the next hour will prove who guessed right. Beneath the immediate clash of two destroyers lies a far larger contest. The South China Sea is not just water, it is artery. Stretching 1.4 million square miles, it carries nearly $5 trillion worth of annual trade tankers of oil, ships of grain, streams of microchips. 25% of the world's shipping cuts across these waves. Choke the lanes here, and fuel prices spike 50%. Shelves empty, factories stall. China's ambition is written in concrete. Over the last decade, dredgers have transformed reefs into fortresses. Fiery Cross, Mischief Reef, Subi Reef. Each bristles with radar domes, missile batteries, and runways long enough for bombers. They stand not as outposts, but as unsinkable carriers. Anchoring the 9-dash line Beijing insists marks its historical waters, despite a 2016 United Nations ruling rejecting the claim as legally void. Against this, the United States enforces what it calls freedom of navigation. Warships like the Howard deliberately sail through contested areas to prove no nation owns them. These phone-ops are more than maneuvers. They are signals to allies that sea lanes remain open, that Washington will not yield global commons to unilateral maps. Allies sharpen the picture. The Philippines, treaty-bound, offers ports at Subic Bay. Japan deploys destroyers, tying its security to open trade. Australia shares submarine intelligence under the AUKUS Pact, while Vietnam and Malaysia, though cautious, quietly welcome a counterbalance to Chinese power. Each patrol, each radar ping, is theater for friends and foes alike. Economics add urgency. China's growth is export-driven, dependent on tankers slipping safely through these waters. A war here risks strangling its own economy, inviting sanctions, and driving investors to safer havens. The United States, buffered by shale oil and vast markets, would suffer less, though global turbulence would spread to every port. Russia, once a potential partner, is bogged down in Ukraine, leaving Beijing diplomatically exposed. In isolation, China leans on gray zone tactics, ramming, lacing, harassing, but stops short of open fire, gambling that intimidation secures control without triggering full retaliation. Tonight's ramming is no accident. It is the crest of a decade's trend. Close encounters have risen by a quarter since 2018. Each pass grows bolder. Each captain pushed harder by distant orders and national pride. The Howard versus Liu Yang is therefore more than hull against hull. It is map against map, doctrine against doctrine, future against future. And in the storm, as drones and missiles wait in sealed tubes, the question looms. Can the world's arteries survive the squeeze? Rain lashes harder as the sea turns into a battlefield of noise and light. The Howard, scarred from the ram, steadies just enough for her crew to regain rhythm. But calm is illusion. The Liu Yang swings wide, its crew cheering as if dominance has been declared. The Chinese captain signals for escalation. From the destroyer's deck, a swarm of 20 drones lifts into the storm. Small, cheap, almost disposable, they spread in erratic arcs, sensors blinking red against black sky. The cost of the swarm, barely $1 million. The cost if they succeed, a warship worth $1.8 billion, plus the lives inside. Syst active, Captain Ellis orders. The phalanx gun spins, barrels glowing, then roars 4,500 rounds per minute, cutting walls of tracers across the night. 15 drones vanish in 20 seconds, shredded by physics. Mass and velocity colliding with tungsten rain. Shards hiss into the sea. The survivors press on, trying to blind radars, to overwhelm sensors, to seed confusion. At the same time, the Liu Yang fakes a missile launch. Sensors on the Howard scream track inbound. Mach 2 closing fast. The Aegis system locks, interceptors ready. For 3 seconds, the crew believe they are under fire. Then the truth, a dummy missile, a test of American reflexes. Hold fire, Ellis commands, jaw tight. To fire would have been to escalate. To restrain is to deny the opponent control. Above, a Seahawk helicopter launches, slicing the storm with its rotors. It buzzes the Liu Yang in reply, daring their Z-10 to clash. In the fog, 2 aircraft nearly collide, passing within 100 meters. Both retreat at the last second. Pilots rattled. Tension electric. Electronic warfare adds another layer. US. Jammers flood the spectrum, sowing false orders into Chinese comms. Withdraw now. For minutes, confusion grips the Liu Yang's bridge. Officers arguing whether commands are real. Radar screens flicker. Icons ghost. And for a heartbeat, Beijing's will feels far away. But the sea exacts its price. The Howard takes on more water, listing 15 degrees before pumps claw the margin back. The crew cheers when the list drops to 5. Proof that training and steel can resist even ramming in swarms. The Liu Yang, too, pays. Its bow, bent from the initial strike, slows the ship to 20 knots. Momentum fades, and with it, certainty. What was meant to be intimidation is now risk. Risk of damage, risk of retaliation, risk of shame. The night becomes a duel of nerves. Technology against mass, discipline against pressure. The storm hides nothing, it only amplifies choices. And each captain knows the next misstep could light the fuse they were ordered not to ignite. ADA. If you think technology and discipline will win, press 1. If you think mass and aggression will force victory, press 9. And subscribe to stand by for the final outcome. Dawn edges the horizon as the clash ebbs. The Howard, battered and listing but alive, limps toward a Philippine port. Her scars are deep steel torn, compartments flooded, repairs projected at $500 million, but her message is intact. She did not fall. Across the sea, the Liu Yang withdraws to Hainan, her bow crumpled from the ramming, engine strained, 200 million in damage logged. What began as a display of dominance ends in retreat. The Dragon struck, but the Eagle endured. International channels flare alive. From Tokyo to Canberra, statements pour in. Condemnation of reckless Chinese aggression, praise for American restraint. Manila protests violations of its waters. Even markets react, oil prices spike, then settle as fears of escalation fade. Beijing, hoping to intimidate, instead faces the sting of diplomatic isolation. The lesson is clear. Modern warfare is no longer decided only by who fields the most hulls or missiles. It is decided by who can harness intelligence, technology, and discipline under pressure. A billion-dollar ship survived not by firing first, but by mastering chaos. A million-dollar swarm of drones fell to sensors, jammers, and training. In the balance, patience proved sharper than any missile. Historians will one day write of this night as a turning point not for a war that started, but for one that didn't. The Howard survival is proof that firepower matters, but judgment matters more. The South China Sea remains contested, but the wider world avoids the spark of global conflict for now. And for those who watched, power lies not only in numbers, but in the wisdom to wield them. ATO. If you believe restraint and intelligence shape the future of war, press 1. If you think raw force will still dominate, press 9 and subscribe so you won't miss the next Frontline story.